Welcome to Leading the Follower with your host, Rebecca Benston. Good morning. Once again, it's me, Rebecca Benston, here for Leading the Follower. And today I'm going to talk to you a little bit as we start this Monday morning. I'm going to talk to you a little bit about acceptable sleep. So, this is a topic that's been on my mind for quite a while, and I just want to give a few thoughts about it and see if maybe I'm the only one that feels this way, or if there are others out there who would appreciate a little extra sleep in their week. That's where I'm at. I don't know about you, but I am someone who has a lot of difficulty sleeping through the night. I get up a lot. I have a lot of chronic pain that keeps me from sleeping fully, from getting into a good deep sleep. And when I do finally achieve deep sleep, I have dreams that are very vivid all night, and it makes it very difficult to wake up feeling rested. So um, often I will sleep right up until the time that I have to get ready for whatever it is I have to do that day. Um, and generally, through the weekdays, that is, sleeping until about an hour before I have to be at my desk, getting up to do my daily routine and my prayer and everything that I do. Um, so my mornings are kind of hectic, kind of rushed, and I'm just generally kind of tired when I get to work. Even if I've attempted to sleep for 8, 9, 10 hours, I often don't get more than 5 or 6 hours of actual sleep. And that's gone on for years and years. So it does take a toll on you. Sleep is something that is vital to our ability to rejuvenate and to refresh and to have good, clear concentration and to be able to just function without problems. So, um, but the reason that I'm talking about this acceptable sleep today is because generally on the weekends I use that as my time um, to sleep in. And sometimes for me, sleeping in can be maybe waking up at 10:30 instead of 8:30, or um, sometimes if I actually do get to sleep, I might sleep until noon. It very rarely happens that I sleep that late, but those are days when, if there's no noise, if there's no craziness going on that wakes me up, and I can actually get into some good sleep, I will take advantage of it if I don't have anywhere to be. But it seems like through this time of year, there is always somewhere that you have to be earlier than you want to be there through the holiday season on the weekends. So it just occurred to me, why is it not acceptable for us to have our functions later in the day so that we can enjoy the time that we have set aside for rest? I don't know who it is out there. I don't know who the person is that feels the need to schedule everything around noon or 1 o'clock, so that you have to get up at 9 or so to get everything ready to go, and to get yourself ready to go and to get on the road to wherever you're going. But they don't take into consideration that this is my time to rest. So it just started to really really get to me, and I thought, who are these people that want to be up so early every day? These must be people who have absolutely no pain or anything like that. Maybe they go to bed around 8 o'clock at night. They don't have work to do that keeps them from being able to rest. That's fine. It's all well and good, but it doesn't really work with my schedule. So oftentimes, if it's something that is set too early, I will just not go. Um, And that's just me. And that's not acceptable. It's not acceptable for us to take care of ourselves and rest and have our sleep in that way. However, it seems to be perfectly acceptable for many of us to be asleep mentally, psychologically, when it comes to seeing the things that are going on around us in the world today. And there's a lot of talk about, people being woke or awake, the difference between the two. And of course, people who have their head in the sand continuously and just refuse to acknowledge that there is anything going on. So, why is that sort of sleep acceptable? Why is it okay to sleep through the things that are going on that have a negative effect on us individually, us globally, and in our communities and in our businesses? When did that become okay to just not take in what is going on around you, or to look the other way when there's something that's happening that you know is not acceptable and should be addressed? Why is it okay for you to be asleep then and not for a few extra hours on your Saturday and Sunday? I thought that was a legitimate question, really. So, in my mind, there is no really good reason to turn a blind eye to the things that are happening in our world today. And there's a lot. And if you don't know what's happening, then you obviously haven't turned on any kind of news that is anything but the mainstream, which you cannot really trust. Um, and, you know, some of the podcasters and things that are out there today, there's podcasters who talk on all sides of any topic that you would want to hear about. So, I mean, you're going to hear about the issues one way or another. It's just, what spin are you going to hear? Are you going to hear that this side's doing good by allowing this to happen, or this side is doing bad by allowing that to happen? Or are you even going to hear what they're allowing to happen? That's the key. And reluctantly, I watched the movie on Netflix that's out right now, Leave the World Behind, the one that everyone's been talking about. I don't like to watch anything that supports Obama because I am very much opposed to the things that he's doing and has done. And the funny thing is, I was a supporter of his years ago. My daughter and I went to his rally in Columbus. We supported him wholeheartedly. I voted for him twice. And then toward the end of his second term, I woke up and I saw the division that was being caused by a lot of the things that he was putting out. And I thought this guy was supposed to be um, the president who was going to bring it all together. He was going to be the one who gave us hope, because he talked a good talk, and he was very charismatic and very likable for a time. But initially, I knew there was something wrong. I did not like him initially, and I was very much against the whole idea of him, because I typically shy away from people who everyone likes immediately. There's usually something to that. I get a feeling kind of in my spirit that maybe there's something you need to look at a little deeper, because there's nobody who's perfect. There's nobody who doesn't have some kind of agenda, especially when it comes to politics. So, after a while, I listened. I made myself listen to his speeches. I watched him for a little bit, and I ended up voting for him both times. Um, and then, probably, I don't know, a third of the way through his second term, as things were kind of escalating, and I saw the world that used to be okay. We had our problems, but it used to be, at least, it felt safer to me at that time. it just started to feel a little off and very tense. And I thought, it shouldn't feel this way. Obama being the first African American president, that showed a lot of growth for us as a country to have come together to elect him. And I thought that was a turning point, and we were really heading in a good direction where people didn't see color. But then by the end of his term, it seemed like all we saw was this division between black and white, which I don't agree with, because I don't look at people that way. I look at people as people because we're all made from the same God, and our souls don't have a color. So So it was frustrating to me that someone I had put so much faith in, which I knew better than to do, because you don't put your faith in people, you put your faith in God always. Um, but but I was disappointed, and man will generally disappoint you. But I didn't really understand that concept as well as I do now when I was looking at the situation back then. So anyway, getting back to that, I watched the movie reluctantly because I didn't really want to throw any support behind him. It's already a bit of a touchy subject with me because the name of my publishing company is Higher Ground Books and Media. I started my company back in 2013 as Books from Higher Ground, and I changed the name 1 year later to Higher Ground Books and Media because I was looking at jumping into audio and eventually jumping into video, and trying to do some things on a broader scale. So that was my plan. And then after I had put my name out that way, I think it was 2015 or 16 that Obama came out with his Higher Ground Productions, and I often get emails from people who think that I am affiliated with Obama's production company, and I have to explain to them, no, that's not us. We don't do that. We're not them. We're a completely different type of organization, and we're not affiliated. So, just for the sake of putting that out there once again, Higher Ground Books and Media was here first, and um, we are not affiliated with anything the Obamas do. So we're completely different. And and so I watched the film Leave the World Behind, and I was just not sure what to expect. I thought, okay, it could be interesting, maybe not. I don't know. But I mainly watched it to research what I'd been hearing on some of the channels that I listen to. And it was actually, I hate to admit it, it was a pretty decent movie. Entertainment wise, it was okay. However, I felt like there was a lot of in your face type of poking the bear type references in this movie. Um, it was kind of like he knows that we know, and so he doesn't want other people to take us seriously. On When I say us, I mean people on the side that believe that there is deep state. There are bad actors out there who are doing bad things behind the scenes that they don't want people to know about, and it's being covered up on a very large scale. And I won't get into the specifics of it because I'm not an expert on it. I listen to see what's going on, and I sort it out according to what looks and feels right to me, because I tend to want to use discernment. I don't want the news telling me what I should believe, and you shouldn't want that either. I just want them to lay the facts out and let me make my decisions based on that. I'm an adult. I don't need to be spoon fed. So, this movie, I was very surprised to hear some of the terminology that indicated that they know we're aware of things that are going on. besides, you know, what's reported in the media. Um, they threw around some terms like, cabal and things like that. And I thought that's really strange that they would even say that out loud, because these are things that they've tried to act like those things don't exist. So, what it amounts to is they're trying to use that movie as a platform for talking the left into believing that everyone on the right is a conspiracy theorist. That's the impression I got. And so everything that was presented in such a way that um, they just made light of the things that we're worried about right now, and tried to make it so that it wasn't such a big deal. But then whatever was going on was a big deal, but they wanted the focus to be on outside forces. When I truly believe that the threats that we are facing as a nation are coming from the inside. And so it was just a way to put everything out there in front of everyone so that they could say they told us without telling us. Um, because that's part of how that group of people becomes, or allows themselves to be accountable. So, anyway, as I watched this movie, I was uh, I was just kind of watching with an eye toward, what are they trying to pull? What kind of an attitude are they trying to instill in people? And just there were lots of cues in the movie that I was kind of disturbed about. I thought, wow, there's no way the timing on some of these things is accidental, and there's no way that it doesn't mean something. And I don't tend to fall for any of that conspiracy stuff. I am someone who basically doubts everything that I see that's out there, unless it's biblical, unless it has some kind of grounding in fact and logic. I'm a very, very logically minded person. So, so as I watched it, I was just trying to take it all in and see if it made sense. Did it resonate at all? Well, parts of it did. There were actually some things that were said that really hit me as being pretty deep. And every once in a while, in movies and uh, media that they put out, that side puts out. And I'm not even saying it's really a left and right side. There's a good and evil, and I think that's the main point. And on both sides of left and right, there are good people and there are evil people. They're just interspersed throughout. So I think this is very much a good and evil battle. And those who are on the evil side are um, they're just really hoping to trick people into believing that what they're seeing is not what they think it is. They're big on the gaslighting. They're big on making you think that you're not smart enough to understand the bigger picture, and that you should just sit down and do what they tell you. And that, of course, never works with me, because I don't believe in letting someone just tell me what's right. And, especially when I know better. so, so I think I would recommend that you watch the movie. But if you're someone who has doubts about what you're hearing in the media, if you're someone who doesn't really trust the news anyway, I never really enjoyed watching the news, and I always hated politics. So I was never someone who was really deep into all of that stuff, and allowing it to rule what I did from day to day. It's just when all the decisions coming from our government began to encroach upon whether or not I can buy groceries, whether or not I can take a vacation every 5, 6 years, which rarely happens, whether I can pay my utility bills, or get a tank of gas. That's when I start looking a little bit more closely at what's going on. And I'm like, what are they doing? How is it that we're sending all this money? Like, we're not just talking a few 100,000 here and there, we're talking billions and trillions of dollars, sending it all over to fund wars that don't need to be happening. And I'm not sure what the wars are for. I'm not sure why we can't come to an agreement. If we are supposedly intelligent people, if we are supposedly good people, decent people, why can't the leaders of our world sit down and negotiate something so that they don't have to kill each other? Never has made sense to me. So I'm not for the war mentality. I'm not for that. I am, however, for the warrior mentality, which says if someone comes and tries to hurt me or my family or my loved ones or my community, I am willing to fight to prevent them from doing harm to the people that I love and care about. And I certainly fall in line with that. And that's a survival instinct. That's not an allegiance instinct. That is wanting to make sure that those that you care about are okay and that you can be safe as well. So there's a big difference um, in the two. And in watching the movie, I just thought they really did a good job of depicting how detached people seem to be from what's really happening and how they look at society as a whole, and how this general sense of distrust of one another has kind of set in, and nobody really likes each other. And there's no real reason for it. It's just you're another person and you're preventing me from doing what I want, so I don't like you. It's that kind of a thing. And it doesn't even mean that the person's actually doing anything to prevent them. It's just they're in the way. So so as I watched it, I was like, okay, I think I get what they're doing. I think I get what they're saying. And I'll give them credit for putting together an entertaining movie. But there's certainly more to it than what they want to say out loud. So I believe the movie did its intended job of trying to exacerbate that sense of division between people, because it still really picked at the whole black and white issue, which I don't believe is as much an issue out there as people are trying to tell us it is. At least in my community. And, maybe I'm just stupid. Maybe I'm naive about this, but I grew up with lots of friends of whatever color, and as I said, I wasn't someone who really paid attention to what color someone was before I decided to be friends with them. That wasn't the criteria. Now, of course, I did have a few challenges growing up because of some outside forces that I really didn't have much control over. But, um, you know, things like there were things going on at home that prevented me from having friends at all. So it really didn't matter what color someone was. I couldn't have decent relationships at that time in my life anyway. So it wasn't a black and white thing for me. It was just a thing. And that's a discussion for another day, obviously. But if it was as bad as they would have us believe, then you couldn't walk down the street in my neighborhood. You couldn't go anywhere without fear of someone of another race hurting you, you know. Black people would be afraid of white people, white people would be afraid of black people. It's just stupid because I'm not afraid of anybody. You know, I don't like people that come into our communities and refuse to follow the laws, the things that are there to keep us safe. I don't like that. And I don't think anybody really likes that, because people who do that, you know, put the rest of us in danger for no good reason other than they just don't want to pay attention to what they're supposed to pay attention to. So, do I believe there are people out there who don't care what happens in other households besides their own? Well, sure. I believe we are a very self centered bunch of people these days. And I believe that society has driven us that way. Um, I believe that the media and everything we see and absorb as a culture has really worked very hard to refine that quality in us, that it's made it so that that's the way we are. And that is unfortunate. So, getting back to the original topic that I started with, um, whether you're awake or whether you're woke, whatever the case may be, when is it acceptable to sleep through the important stuff? When is it acceptable to just disconnect and rest and find, peace in whatever reality you allow yourself to imagine for the sake of rejuvenation or retaining your sanity, or however you want to put it? When is that okay? Is it okay that I don't want to get up early to go to family gatherings and work gatherings and things like that? Probably not, because if I wasn't exhausted by what's going on in our world, I probably wouldn't feel that way. I'd probably want to be up and be around the people that I care about and do the things that I used to enjoy doing. But as it is, the world is exhausting. And um, it's no wonder people want to stick their head in the sand and not know what's going on around them, whether it's through disconnecting completely, refusing to see reality, refusing to accept other viewpoints that might conflict with what's safe for them to perceive, um, or whether it's, staying medicated, or um, drinking a lot of alcohol, or just anything to keep you preoccupied so that you don't know what's really happening out there. All of that is perfectly understandable in the world that we live in today. So I understand why sleep is so appealing. But at some point, we have to wake up. At some point, we have to be rested enough, and we have to be able to wake up, confront the day, and do what we need to do to keep the people in our lives safe and happy and healthy, and to try and make a positive impact in this world that we live in. That's all we can do. So, with all of that, that's pretty heavy for a Monday morning, and I'm sorry about that, but today was one of those days that I was actually awake early. so, um, so you get a little bit more energy from me than you might normally get, but but I hope that what I've said makes sense to you in some way or another. I know, I know that looking at the world today can be very difficult for some people. I know that it is scary to look around and see how much things have changed, and how people don't seem to care the way they used to. I don't necessarily think that that is because of race or anything like that. I think that the good and evil battle has escalated to the point where those of us who are not in the loop on whatever strategies they're using to try to get at each other, we are casualties of that war, and they don't care. They look at us as that collateral damage that happens, when you fight. So, if we expect to survive this and come out of it with any kind of quality of life, we really need to remember who the enemy is and understand that it's not our neighbor. It's not the people down the street. It's not people on this side of the political fence. It's uh, it's not people of this culture or this race. The enemy is Satan. The enemy is people who embrace Satan's rhetoric and whatever it is that he's pushing them into. But you also have to understand that Satan is alone in this war. He would have us believe that people that are his minions right now have some sort of loyalty to him, when actually, by the very nature of being on his side, they've shown they don't have loyalty to the right things. And it's because they've been manipulated, they've been deceived, they've been talked into doing things that probably go against their moral character. And a lot of their actions probably come from shame and guilt and fear. And all it takes, all it takes to turn that around and bring someone over to the good side from the evil side is just the right person at the right time, introducing them to God's word, helping them understand whose child they are, helping them get back to a place where they understand that God forgives. All they have to do is reach out and say, I need you, Lord, and I want to be better. I want to be what you made me for, not what Satan wants to use me for. So I think people forget that. And when we see um, the enemy looks like our neighbor or looks like people of a different culture or race because they've been drafted into whatever army he's been trying to build to wipe out God's people. But he's never going to beat God, no matter how many people he enslaves, no matter how many people he tricks into doing his work or he scares into doing his work. He will never have a loyal army. He will never have people who have a heart for him the way that people have a heart for God when they do. And it's important to understand the difference there. Even your enemy is not necessarily your enemy for all time. That can change. But Satan needs to understand that he's never going to win the battle. He's never going to win the whole war. He may think that he's won because he does damage. He may think that he's doing something because he's got so many people that are following him either blindly or out of fear. And he thinks that he's done something. He thinks he's pulled one over on people. But those who know good and who know God understand that all it takes is a word. All it takes is for one of those people on the wrong side to reach out and say, Jesus, I need you. That's it. And if they would all just raise their hands and say, I don't want to do this anymore. I don't want to hurt people anymore. I don't I don't want to be on this side of things anymore. This is not who God made me to be. I know God made me. I know Satan didn't make me. I don't want to be under his thumb anymore. I want to do the right thing. I want to be on the right side. So hopefully, um, when you go out today and you interact with people, try to show them who God is without being pretentious, without being haughty, without being um, overwhelming with the Christianese and all that. Just be good to each other. And it's not about just being nice or being kind. Just be good to each other and see where that gets us. Have a great day. Have a great week. I'll talk to you Friday. God bless. Thanks for stopping by. Be sure to check out our website and blog. The blog is at www.leading-the-follower.com. Thanks and God bless.